Hello guys and welcome to another Sea Power tutorial. Today we are going to dive deep into the art of submarine warfare, now beyond the basics. If you haven't seen my previous tutorial which covers those, well, I highly recommend you to see it before coming here. Link is down in the description, so we'll wait for you. Are you back? Okay, let's move on. So with this tutorial it's time to elevate your tactics and become a true predator of the deep. In this tutorial we'll uncover the secrets of submarine weaponry, how to use the ocean as your ally, hiding in thermal layers to evade detection, and outsmarting both surface ships and rival submarines. But we'll go beyond there. We'll show you how to survive enemy torpedo attacks, how to avoid them, and most importantly, you will learn how to coordinate with your fleet for maximum impact on the battlefield. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more advanced tutorials like this one. Make sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future uploads. And if you want to support the channel and help us keep creating awesome content, consider joining us on Patreon. Now, no matter if you are hunting or being hunted, these strategies will give you the edge you need. So stick with me until the end and you'll come away with the skills to dominate the underwater battlefield. Let's begin. Now, what's the submarine's obvious job in war? Well, blowing stuff up, right? But hopefully without being detected. And for that we have weapons. Lots of them. These weapons don't just define how you'll engage the enemy. They define how you'll use your submarine altogether. So let's talk a little bit about the tools of the trade. The first thing, obviously, torpedoes. Now, we all know what a torpedo is, right? A little kamikaze mini sub. Almost all of them come with some kind of guidance system. So before you begin a battle, check on your submarines, check on their weapons, and check on your torpedoes. Pay attention to their role, pay attention to their range, pay attention to the speed and the guidance method they have. Also pay attention to see if they are wide guided. This is no joke. I mean, this can save your bacon, and this also can save you from some really embarrassing moments, like when you are firing an anti-submarine torpedo to an enemy surface ship. Yeah, not good. Now let's break torpedoes down into two main types. First, we have the wake homers. Now these are only anti-surface, and they are straight running torpedoes that they go in the direction you fire them, and the moment they cross a wake of a surface ship, they lock into it like a dog chasing a car. Now believe me, those torpedoes never lose interest, never. Once they sniff a wake, they follow it, and they are really hard to shake off. These torpedoes are exclusively Soviet and, as I said, strictly anti-ship. Simple, effective, and not very subtle. But the most common torpedoes are sonar guided. These come in passive mode, so they listen to noise, and when they hear noise, they home on that noise. And they also can be active sonar, so they throw out pings and they home on whatever the return is. They also can be dual mode, meaning they can be active or passive at the same time. These torpedoes are multi-role. There are a lot of different classes, and they can be exclusively against surface ships, exclusively against submarines, or they can hit both submarine and surface ships. And some of these can be wide guided. Pay attention to this because you can steer those torpedoes in the middle of the run. That's handy, right? You'll see more about them later. I'm going to make a dedicated video about optimal torpedo usage soon. And there I will go into far more detail about these weapons and their different kinds and how to use them properly. But for now, let's move on. Let's move on because next we have missiles. Now, in the case of NATO, there's not a lot of variants. A submarine, if it has missiles, they are going to be harpoons. That's all. The Soviets, however, went all out. They have a buffet of missile options, including anti-submarine missiles. Yeah, that's right. A rocket propeller torpedo that can ruin your day from above. Think of it as the submarine equivalent of them from above. And before I forget, let's give a quick shout out to decoys. Not all submarines have them, but when they do, these little guys can save your bacon. These things act like tiny fake submarines, confusing enemies into thinking they've got you when they are actually chasing a glorified underwater sock puppet. If you want to use this in action, check out one of my previous videos. Link is in the description below. Okay, that's the arsenal. Know it, love it, and most importantly, use it wisely. So let's move on. Now, as I said previously, in my previous tutorial, I covered the key factors that affect your ability to detect enemies and avoid being detected yourself. Things like sea state, the layer, convergence zones, and surface depth. Let's dive into how you can use that knowledge for your advantage. Now, the golden rule of submarine warfare is to detect the enemy first. If you know where they are, it's much easier to decide your next move, it's much easier to stay hidden, and you want to be hidden. Against submarine surface ships, detecting them means staying above the layer, but staying hidden from them means being under the layer. The position above the layer maximizes your detection range, but if you're worried about being detected, and even more if you're worried about being spotted by enemy helicopters or sonobuoys, then you'll for sure want to sleep below the layer to hide. Now keep in mind that some surface ships have towed sonar arrays. If they are present, be careful. Those sonars can be deployed under the layer and they will be able to hear you down there. So be careful. When it comes down to submarines, that's a little bit trickier. First, you are going to need to figure out where the enemy submarine is, what's its depth. Once you do, you can position yourself above or below the layer depending on whether you want to maintain contact or stay hidden. But here's the catch. Submarines can change depth quickly. You might think you're safe with a layer between you, only to have them sneak across it and pop into the sound channel you are sitting in, detecting you in exchange. There's one more thing to consider here. Depth zones. Surface ships have sonar domes that can hear almost everything around them, but they have a weak area directly behind them. Their own propellers create enough noise to interfere with the hearing, so usually they don't hear very well towards their rear. Submarines, however, have a much serious trouble, because submarines have the sonar mounted in their bow, and after that sonar is the whole hull. They have a big blind spot directly behind them, roughly 60 to 80 degrees behind the submarine. Exception is if the submarine has a towed array, of course they can hear behind them, but if they don't, they have a really big weakness there. If you can slip into a blind zone of a submarine, do it. Because not only will be it easier to remain undetected, but it also gives you the perfect opportunity to fire a torpedo straight up their rear. They won't even know what hit them until the torpedo goes active. Okay, let's see in action. First, we check the depth of the layer. The next thing we are going to look is, do we have the towed array deployed? And yes, we do. Contact. We have an enemy contact and we need to check the depth. It's 400 and something, so it's under the layer. So first we are going to turn to stay out of its way. And now we have a positive identification. We are going to change layers. We are going to go above the layer because he's under the layer. And as we do, we are going to lose the contact, but we know where it is. Here you go. We lost the contact because we are above the layer. He's under the layer, so I'm going to take my chance here. And note his speed, he's 5 knots. Well, I'm going to accelerate to a head standard. I ordered full by mistake, but I ordered a head standard, that's 15 knots. And what we are going to try to do is to move to a side and then let it pass, and we are going to come behind him and approach him from his blind spot. Some minutes later, we find that he's climbing above the layer. So what I'm going to do is to do the opposite. I slow down already to 5 knots. So he will have trouble hearing us. And as he's above the layer, well, I want to stay hidden. I go below. Once I'm below, I'm going to be undetected. He's doing a crazy Ivan. If you have seen Hunt for the Ray of October, you know what it is. Submarines that have no towed array usually do these things. They do a check on their aft part and then they resume their original course. And after a while of doing it, well, we are in a position that we know is behind him. So we are already at the position. I change course to match his position, his pairing. I changed my depth, so now we will detect it again in a few seconds. And there it is. We detected the position, and now we are at a proper distance to open fire. And he won't be able to hit these torpedoes, so we are able to surprise him and maximize our chances to hit. Now remember what we said in our previous tutorial. Submarine stealth and detection is a dynamic relationship. In seas which are calmer, you will need to be extra careful about not emitting noise. But in rougher waters, you can get away with a lot more. In the same way, fast-moving enemies create a lot of sonar washout, which makes it harder for them to hear you. But when they slow down, your options become more limited. So depending on those things, you can decide which speed you can go, how much noise you can make. Using layers to mask your approach makes you able to sprint and then drift while checking that the enemy is still there. Watch out for enemies using that kind of thing, sprint and drift tactics. At first, you might feel safe because they are moving so fast that they won't detect you. But if they suddenly stop and slow down, they will be able to catch you off guard. At least if you don't react quickly enough. Stay alert and always anticipate what they might do next. Now that you know how to use the ocean's features and your enemy's weakness to your advantage, let's move on to surviving one of the most dangerous scenarios. Let's learn how to dodge enemy torpedoes. What's the worst thing that can happen to a submarine? Well, your sonarman suddenly shouting, "Torpedo incoming!" Torpedoes are your worst nightmare. Sure, there are depth charges in the game, and there are anti-ship missiles that can wreck you on the surface, but honestly, if you get caught by those, yeah, you probably deserve to lose the submarine anyway. Avoiding a torpedo is all about quick thinking. The faster you decide on your course of action, the higher your chances of survival. So, how do you react? Let's break it down. First step is assessing the threat. Just figure out how dangerous a torpedo really is. A torpedo heading straight for you or leading your position is maximum priority. Just forget about everything else and focus on that. However, a torpedo that's clearly going to miss, yeah, it's not your problem, at least not yet. So focus on something else. Step 2. Can you outrun it? Well, you have to determine if you can outrun the torpedo. With enough experience, you will know the specs of both your submarines and your enemy's weapons. But if you are unsure, open the encyclopedia in-game, look up the torpedo model, check its range and speed. Then calculate the distance within where it was launched from and your own position right now. And ask yourself, can I get beyond its maximum range before it reaches me? And if so, at what speed? Which speed do I need in order to move quick enough to put enough distance that the torpedo reaches maximum distance before it hits me? Well, if it's possible, because there are lots of times that it won't be, but if it's possible, make your escape. If not, well, it's time to explore another option. It's time to move to the step 3. Sidestep out of its seeker arc. If you can't outrun the torpedo, yeah, you can consider moving laterally to avoid the seeker arc. Most torpedo seeker heads have a limited search cone in front of them. If you can get out of that cone before the torpedo activates, you'll be safe. In order to do this, you need to put the torpedo in your port or starboard beam. That means 90 degrees off your course, in one side or another, depending the course you have. Accelerate as needed to move laterally. Sometimes moving at an oblique angle instead of 90 degree, 120 degree of your course works even better because it increases the time the torpedo takes to reach the seeker range. Now keep in mind that some torpedoes are straight running at their activation, but others zigzag as soon as they are activated. Be cautious with the latter. They may still catch you if you are not careful, even if you believe you were out of their seeker's arcs initially. To see the seeker arcs of enemy weapons, enable the relevant map options in-game. Select a weapon on the map and its seeker arc will be displayed. Well, there are times that you can't outrun a torpedo and that you can't sidestep it in time. Now it's time for emergency evasive maneuvers. At this point, forget about stealth. Chances are you are already been detected, and even if you haven't, a dead silent sub is still dead, so focus on survival first and foremost. Now here's how to do it. Go flank speed and drop countermeasures, then turn your sub so the torpedo is on your beam, 90 degrees to port or starboard. Then head towards the layer, if one exists, and cross it. The goal is to use the layer as a barrier between your submarine and the torpedo, with the noisemakers as bait. If there is no layer, well, then begin praying because this is going to be much harder. Once you cross the layer, reduce speed to 1/3 and listen. If the torpedo hooks on the noisemaker, change course to put it around 120 degrees off your track, and then increase speed to 2/3 to create distance. If the torpedo is in full and follows you through the layer, go flank speed, drop more noisemakers, and cross the layer again. Repeat as many times as needed. Always keep track of torpedoes, even after they are full by your noisemakers. Those decoys aren't permanent, and a torpedo might reacquire you if you are not careful. Stay alert until you are certain that it's no longer a threat. Now let's see this in action.
We have a problem. Max speed, flank speed ahead. Okay. That's bad. Let's put as much distance as we can from these guys. They were turning in this direction first. And at 250. Okay, we need to get away from the range of these seekers. If we do, we are safe. If not, we are effed up. This guy is turning. Come on. Lock on something. Stop turning, please. Do not. We are out of range. Oh yes. Didn't locate us. Okay. Ahead 2/3. Ooh. Is turning. Okay, I can't slow down. Go flank. Is turning this direction. If we are picked, we are toast. Yeah, I know I'm cavitating. I don't give a crap.
Contact faded. Track.
And now let's change direction. Let's try to get out of the detection cone of this guy. He's going to pick us. He's going to pick us up. Come on.
Turn to course. 264. Hell my.
Okay, let's do something. Noisemaker here. Break. There. And go above the layer. No, turn the other way then. He's climbing with me. No, actually no. Go deep again.
570. Dive I.
That should work. Okay, we are out.
Turn to course. 222. Hell my.
And ahead to thirds.
Maneuvering I.
Where's that plane? Is it going to come up for us again? I hope not.
Well, as you saw in this example, airdrop torpedoes are quite nasty. They are often deployed very close to your position, forcing you into immediate emergency maneuvers as the chances to outrun or sidestep them are non-existent. You need to watch in which direction they turn after they hit the water, and then you try to gain separation by maneuvering in the opposite direction. Even with the best evasive maneuvers, there is no guarantee that you'll escape unscathed. Torpedo evasion is as much about skill as experience as it is about circumstances. Sometimes you'll just get caught in a bad situation. Maybe a torpedo dropped too close, maybe multiple torpedoes are targeting you, or maybe you don't simply have enough room to maneuver. Now, the tips you have learned here will greatly improve your odds of survival, but they aren't a free get out of jail card. You might still be hit even after doing everything right. Coordination with other assets is one of the best ways to make life easier for your submarine. This is in cold waters. You are not alone. You often have multiple units at your disposal, and using them in tandem with your submarine can make a world of difference in achieving mission success. At the beginning of any scenario, decide whether your submarine will operate solo or in coordination with other assets. Now let's look at this instance. In this scenario, my submarine is perfectly positioned to launch a missile attack in coordination with my surface force to the south. If I fire my missiles right away, well, the Soviet force will likely shoot my 4 harpoons down with ease. However, if I wait until the surface force's missiles are in flight and nearing the target, I can launch my submarine's harpoons at the proper time so both strikes arrive simultaneously. This tactic helps overwhelming the enemy's defenses, creating 4 more incoming missiles from yet another direction, vastly increasing my chances of scoring hits. Another way of coordination is using your submarine as sensor. By using your submarine to detect enemies with its sonar while keeping your surface forces sensors off, this keeps your surface fleet hidden while your submarine gathers vital intelligence. Once you have identified your targets, your surface ships or air assets can go on and strike without revealing themselves prematurely. And then you can go on and attack with your submarine if needed. Another very interesting idea with submarines is to focus on the indirect approach. Now, let's say a very powerful enemy formation is blocking your submarine's approach, and one of the enemy's anti-submarine ships is positioned directly in your path. Now, keep in mind, anti-submarine ships are usually more exposed and easier to target and hit than the high-value units at the center of a formation. So take advantage of this vulnerability. Use your other assets, be it aircraft, long-range missiles, whatever, to eliminate that anti-submarine threat. When it's out of the way, your submarine has a clear path to infiltrate the formation and go after high-value targets. Now, the submarine torpedoes will do the rest. A submarine is a versatile and stealthy asset, a true key card that played at the right moment can single-handedly win a scenario. Think of creative ways to exploit the submarine's presence and position. For example, baiting the enemy with your surface ships while your submarine sneaks from another angle is a classic and effective tactic. Or make noise with one of your submarines so the enemy reacts to its presence while the other sub comes undetected and unleashes hell from behind. Tactics are multiple, but remember, a submarine doesn't need to be in the spotlight. In fact, it should almost never be in the spotlight. It should be stealthy. It's the one working in the shadows. Whatever assets you have at your disposal, look for ways to exploit your submarine's strengths. There's nothing quite like watching your submarine slip past enemy defenses, unleash its weapons, and then send the enemy fleet into chaos. It's not just an easier path to victory, it's one of the most rewarding experiences in the game. And that's it for today, guys. I hope you found these advanced submarine tactics as exciting as useful as I do. Whether you're sneaking past enemy defenses, coordinating devastating strikes, or pulling off daring torpedo dodges, well, these tips should give you the edge you need to dominate the seas. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and drop a comment. I love hearing your thoughts, strategies, suggestions, and ideas, and I read them all. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more tutorials, gameplay, and tactical deep dives, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. If you want to support the channel and help me creating awesome content, consider joining me on Patreon. Your support makes a huge difference and helps keeping this channel afloat. And that pun was absolutely intended. And of course, if you are not already a part of this community, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and join us. Together, we will keep mastering the art of naval warfare, one battle and one tutorial at a time. Thank you very much for watching, and see you later.